Hello, I am Jay from Anime Corner. Nice to meet both of you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for
Thanks
your
for
time.
Cool, I'll go ahead and get started. So, my first question, I want to know what your first impression of the series' premise was, and especially the way the anime launches right into action.
It is an insane premise and an insane first episode. I love having this hero to root for, this, far from perfect hero, but who has his own sense of beliefs. And even though the world is against him, you know that he's a good person at heart. And so you have no choice but to root for him and hope that things turn out okay for him.
Yeah, I love how nothing is as it seems. Again, the heroes are actually criminals. The goddesses are weapons, not things to be worshipped. And there's just so much intrigue that makes you want to figure out more. Obviously, the first episode is just like a tour de force of animation and like it's like heart pounding and stuff like that. And I just love how after all of that, like crazy spectacle, it ends with his sentencing. And I just remember for those last 5 minutes, I was just on the edge of my seat. Like it was just like so quiet. Um, and like I was so honed in. And I felt like ending it on that note was really what made me want to keep watching. It's like, oh, it's not just a spectacle. There's something going on here.
Mm.
Amazing. I had the same reaction. And for both of your characters, what was your initial approach to finding their exact voice and the sort of emotional tone behind it?
With Kivia, having someone who is firm but still willing to change her mind, someone who isn't just like, like someone who's not like you're talking to a brick wall, someone who can still have the capability of being warm and understanding, but ultimately she just wants to do the right thing.
With Teoritta, her intro scene was definitely something we worked to finesse because she starts out all like, oh, I am this almighty goddess, I am dignified, let's make a pact with me, yes, you are such a brave knight, and then I will help you, and then you'll give me pats on the head. So like finding that balance and also making sure that she wasn't too childlike and like less thinking that I wanted her to be a child and more that I wanted her to be innocent and bright and naive. I think that is what helped me choose her voice.
That makes sense. And for Emmy, digging into what you just said, actually, in terms of the process of doing retries of different scenes, figuring out exactly where you wanted that balance to sit, working with the director, can you just talk more about that process and what it was like kind of iterating on that?
Um, well, for her opening things, we definitely wanted a more formal way of speaking. Like calling back to the goddesses you would think of, like when something on a higher level, an exalted being, just and very focused and centered. So we played a little bit like rounded out instead of your, we rounded out to more to like your, because like it's less casual and stuff like that. But then I would kind of drop that whenever I would get into her little, oh, I'm so happy you give me pats on the head and stuff like that. Where she throws aside the facade and is like her true little self. So yeah, as for her jubilant moments, I just get very physical and I jump around the booth and stuff like that, and it's a lot of fun.
Amazing. And similar question for Dawn, but for Kivia, how do you approach that hard line sense of justice and making sure that's portrayed in a consistent and also understandable way?
Hmm. Whenever I play Kivia, um, I kind of, straighten my posture and fold my hands behind my back. And you speak more from like your diaphragm, like down deep into your chest, to give that resonance, but also still retain that like slight sense of warmth to it. Um, until she goes on a pretend outing with Xylo as her as his pretend lover, and then it just kind of goes up there and she becomes very flustered and hi and but yeah, I try to have my body language match hers. She is all an almost unmoving, unstoppable force.
That makes sense. And for both of you, when it comes to scenes that are more action or movement heavy versus those that are more expository and speech heavy, you talked a little bit about some of the different bits of physicality that goes into your work, but when differentiating between those two kinds of scenes, what is your approach usually like?
Try to swing a sword without hitting the mic.
Oh my God, yeah.
I've definitely, not for this show, but I've definitely smacked a pop filter.
Yeah.
But it's because that physicality, you can hear it. You can hear it, like you can feel it versus, just like shouting it without doing anything. I think voice acting is a lot more physical than people think.
Yeah, I remember when I get especially excited as Teoritta. I remember once the director Sean was like, "Emmy, you're a little off mic there. Get back on mic." And I'm like, because I was bouncing around so much.
I just gotta chase you with a boom mic.
Right, exactly. Or just have the little lavalier on my.
And this next question, again to both of you, have there been any aspects of your character that were surprisingly challenging to portray, or where you had to lean a bit more on a director more than you initially expected?
Trying to think. I was gonna say, Emmy, do you? Because I can't. There's nothing that I can quite think of.
I think just finding the three different modes that she has, which is one is the goddess mode, two is the battle mode, and then the three is the gremlin mode. And so just like making them distinct enough, but also still like the same person.
I think I'm slowly finding those modes with Kivia as well. You have the one-on-one talking with Xylo, where it started off very angry, but then slowly just became more and more um casual and comfortable and intimate, versus when she's speaking to her uncle. And that one was actually kind of fun to do because her uncle doesn't come in until later. So when you first meet Kivia, she's again very militaristic, very, very businesslike. But then you see Kivia speaking with her uncle, and the dynamic shifts, where she treats this man as not only someone she highly respects, but someone that she's known since she was a child. And I had a lot of fun playing that side of her, where you suddenly see her like still businesslike, but a lot more humble and a lot more just kind of, letting her uncle be the boss in this situation.
Amazing. That's all of my time. Thank you both very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.